Journalist Andrew Feinberg, seen here, confronted Donald Trump to his face about his lies, about the way that he is saying the stock market is Joe Biden's fault and not his, even though he's the president. And Donald Trump was completely stunned and unable to answer coherently. This comes as Temu, if you don't know, one of the biggest websites in the world that's basically the Chinese version of Amazon. It serves hundreds of millions of Americans every year. And they have just announced that they are halting shipping direct from China as tariffs are about to go into effect. And they said here, Chinese bargain retailer Temu changed its business model in the U.S. as the Trump administration's new rules on low-value shipments took effect Friday. In recent days, Temu has abruptly shifted its website and app to only display listings for products shipped from U.S.-based warehouses. Items shipped directly from China, which previously blanketed the site, are now labeled as out of stock. Temu made a name for itself in the U.S. as a destination for ultra-discounted items shipped directly from China, such as $5 sneakers and $1.50 garlic presses. Yeah, so we're all losing in Donald Trump's trade war. And sorry, let me fix this here so you can see more of this. We're all losing in Donald Trump's trade war. And honestly, the only one that seems to be benefiting from it is Donald Trump and his family. When Donald Trump was confronted with the idea that things are going to cost more, here is how the billionaire president answered.
Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally. But we're not talking about something that we have to go out of our way. They have ships that are loaded up with stuff, much of which, not all of it, but much of which we don't need.
Man, it's just wild to me for multiple reasons. One, he was elected for one reason and one reason only, and that is to lower prices. He said he was going to lower prices on day one. And now he's saying, oh, you actually don't need much of this stuff. And the stuff that you do want to get, just get less of it. And it just might cost a little bit more. What? And let me just remind you this. This is this man's house in New York City. It's a penthouse apartment in Trump Tower, and it's gilded. He also has multiple properties. Of course, you've heard of Mar-a-Lago, worth millions and millions of dollars. Our president says, just tighten up the budget a little bit. Tighten up your personal budget a little bit for my stupid policy. And here is how Stephen Miller talked about it when confronted with Donald Trump's idiotic turn of phrase that you should just buy less toys for your family. Buy less things.
On toys, you may end up paying, on dolls he was referring to, you may end up paying a little bit more right now. So in terms of...
He was making the point that I think almost every American consumer agrees with. If they had a choice between and I'm a parent of young children, you had a choice between a doll from China that might have, say, lead paint in it, that is not as well constructed as a doll made in America that has a higher environmental and regulatory standard, and that is made to a higher degree of quality. And those two products are both on Amazon, that yes, you probably would be willing to pay more for a better made American product, but here's the key point. With the tax cuts, the regulation cuts, the energy price decrease, and everything else that President Trump is doing to unleash this era of American prosperity and prevent the road we were on to get off that road of financial ruin and doom, means that it will be cheaper than ever to make.
Whatever. Well, let's just listen to this again, because he didn't say any of that shit. He was basically saying things are going to cost more, buy less things. He wasn't like, well, the stuff in China costs less, but it's also more, it's more unsafe. And so wouldn't you want to spend more from America?
Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know?
$2 instead of $30. Nothing about lead paint. And this is how the New York Post talked about it. They said, skimp on the Barbie. Maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30. And it also says here, Trump admits tariffs will raise some prices, cause shortages. That's not great when the New York Post is doing that. And he's also getting it too, like I said, from Andrew Feinberg, who said that, well, he basically said that, Donald Trump, you take credit for the stock market when it's up, but not when it's down.
Sir, you frequently took credit for the stock market highs. You said it was a reflection of how well you were doing in the polls, and then after you were elected, you said the stock market highs were a reflection of how well the transition is going and the American people's confidence in your incoming administration. Now, the stock market's not doing so well, and you're saying that's the Biden stock market, yet you are the president. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I'm not taking credit or discredit for the stock market. I'm just saying that we inherited a mess, both at the borders. You could look at every single one of the people here and...
All right, we'll come back to this. He's going to talk more about the border, and there's more that's not even in that video. But I just want to point out that what he just said is a lie. Parker Butler, who was worked in digital on the Kamala Harris campaign, very smartly put these things out. This is on January 29th when the stock market was high. This is the Trump stock market because my polls against Biden are so good that investors are projecting that I will win and that will drive the market up. Everything else is terrible. Watch the Middle East, and record inflation has already taken its toll. Record inflation is back because of you, and also the Middle East is still not fixed. Donald Trump then said on April 30th, which is just a couple days ago, this is Biden's stock market, not Trump's. Now it's Biden's stock market. It's not Biden's stock market when Biden's the president, but when Trump's president, it's suddenly Biden's stock market. I didn't take over until January 20th. Tariffs will soon start kicking in, and companies are starting to move into the USA in record numbers. Our country will boom, but we have to get rid of the Biden overhang. This will take a while, has nothing to do with tariffs. That is a lie. All right. And so I guess we could just watch more of Donald Trump lying to us about the about how it's about the border and blah, 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 blah. But I just want to end with Pete Buttigieg, who gave a really critical warning here. He goes, he just posted this moments ago. He goes, this isn't hypothetical. The coming days are bringing higher prices and disrupted supply chains, this time not because of a pandemic or a war, but self-inflicted by our country's government under this president. The last boats, this is CNN reporting, the last boats without crippling tariffs from China are arriving. The countdown to shortages and higher prices has begun. Yeah. So if you are watching this, and if you do live, I know many of you have budgets that are tight. And so if that is a case for you, this is the time now to get anything you can while it's still cheap, because there used to be this thing where anything less than $800 would not be subjected to tariffs from China. That is no longer the case. Everything is getting subjected to tariffs from China. And so if you are living on a fixed income, please do what you can to take care of yourself and buy the things that you anticipate you're going to need soon, because they're about to get a lot more expensive for no reason other than the fact that Donald Trump is an idiot, a selfish, rich idiot, hurting all of us.